And joining us now here on the Jay Stevens podcast, I mentioned it at the top of the show. It is Phillip Jordan, host of Talkin SEC, and he also covers the Auburn Tigers for Last Word on College Football. I believe that was the correct name of that company. Phillip, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing good. Not much going on this week, I guess, with Auburn and the SEC. I mean, it's been a boring week, SEC, I guess. Just kidding, of course. Glad to be on here. It's a fun time of the year. I appreciate you asking me on the show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Boring week, huh? SEC championship. Got some aftermath from the LSU Florida game. And I'm going to start talking about a coach and a team that you cover, the Auburn Tigers. Did you think Gus Malzahn was going to get fired this season?
You know, the buyout, right? I mean, everybody knows about it. The big buyout, $21.7 million. He's getting half of it the first 30 days. So that was always my thing, especially in a year of pandemic. Like, there's no way they're going to pay that much. I know a few weeks ago, Will Muschamp, South Carolina, he got fired and they gave him, I think, $13 million. But, like, you know, with Gus's buyout, I just did not think that was going to happen. But as we got through the Mississippi State game on Saturday night, there was online, which you got to take that with a grain of salt. You just don't know what you're seeing on Twitter, Facebook, and message boards. But there was talk. There was, you know, people were hinting that this could be the last game in the last half for Gus Malzahn at Auburn. But then you see the video of him dancing when he said, okay, maybe not. So I was kind of most of the year, I was thinking he's probably going to get another year, especially if he won against Mississippi State. But Auburn decided to pull the trigger. There's some, from everything I've read and seen, there are some power brokers at Auburn just last couple of years were just ready to move on from him. So it kind of did shock me, but at the same time, not really. I guess I was kind of 50-50 on it, but in a very long-winded way of answering your question, didn't think it was going into this year, regardless of what happened, but it kind of just unfolded that way. So it's a fun time or an interesting time, I guess, if you're an Auburn fan with the new coaching search going on.
It is, and this season with Bo Nix, there's a lot of hype around him. Last year, the way that he played, and then also this year, I heard going into the season, oh, Bo Nix going to take the next step. Bo Nix this, Bo Nix that. This team's going to be decent. And at times, it was kind of difficult to watch Auburn play football. From your vantage point, from what you watched and from what you did when covering the team, what did you see from Auburn this year on the football field?
It was about what we've seen under Gus Malzahn. And look, I have spent plenty of years, criticizing Gus Malzahn. I never was going to be the president of the Gus Malzahn fan club. And I'll say that too. There were some good highs with Gus. I'm going to say that too. I don't want to sound like I'm completely anti-Gus Malzahn. He did some good things at Auburn and ran a clean program and, did things the right way at Auburn, and a good guy. So he's somebody you do want ahead of your program. But I think the biggest issue with Auburn the last couple of years under Gus Malzahn was quarterback development. I believe the last three quarterbacks that come in highly touted left worse than when they got there. We're going to talk about Jeremy Johnson when he got there. Everybody remembers him. He was supposed to be the Heisman candidate after Nick Marshall. He didn't work out. You could tell he was not developed. Jarrett Stidham looked really good in 2017 at Auburn. He was not good in 18. He regressed. And then Bo Nix, I believe, was a better quarterback when he arrived on campus than he is now. Bo Nix has got fundamental problems. You can tell the arm talent is there. He makes these wow throws that, you leave you like, wow, this guy should be better than he is. And if anybody to watch the Mississippi State game, you heard Jordan Rogers on the call on SEC Network. Bo Nix fundamentals are bad. He does not plant his feet properly. He leaves the pocket when he does not have to. So that's going to be big, whoever next head coach is, because when you look at the Auburn roster, there's not another quarterback that can take over right now. So we feel like at least beginning next year, unless they get a transfer to come in, Bo Nix is going to be the quarterback. And whoever it is, if they're not a quarterback guru, they need to bring somebody in to develop him with his fundamentals. And that's something I think that Gus Malzahn had failed, not just Bo Nix, but Jarrett Stidham and Jeremy Johnson too.
I know with quarterback play now, with the transfer portal being as full as it is, I'm a person that loves competition, and I'm not a personal fan of transfers being as many transfers as there currently are. I mean, DeJuan Mathis at Georgia, whatever happened there at Georgia, quarterback situation, they played everybody at quarterback this year at Georgia. That really confused me. And I get it. Sometimes a transfer is ideal. It makes sense. Most of the time, it does not. And I'm curious, though, with the current trend of transfers, how Bo Nix will respond if there is a transfer. Say a coach leaves one school, goes to Auburn, and the quarterback that was there at the previous school says, I'm going to follow you. I wasn't playing previously, but now I believe I can play and beat out Bo Nix. I know your system. I'm curious, Phillip, how you think Bo Nix will respond if there is a quarterback competition going into next season.
I'll tell you what, that might be the best thing for him.
Okay.
Because when you look at Auburn, Joey Gatewood was the guy he competed with for the quarterback. and they picked Bo Nix. Now, look, I don't buy into it, but there's some Auburn fans that think because, for people don't know, Bo Nix's daddy, Patrick Nix, played at Auburn in the 90s, and he's a well-established high school football coach here in Alabama. Then you had Malik Willis, who went to Liberty, see what he's doing with Hugh Freeze this year. I honestly believe competition would be good for Bo Nix because then maybe it would make him think, I got to clean up some stuff. Because there's one, if you don't have the fear of the bench, why do I need to improve, really? Because I know there's no one behind me that's going to take the job. Auburn's got a couple of guys that have transferred in behind him. Cam Newton's brother was there, but they turned him into a wide receiver. So there's no threat for Bo Nix of the bench. I think if they could bring somebody in that could challenge him at the starting position, I think actually that would be the best thing for him. Maybe make him, up the level of his game.
I agree with that. I'm there with that. Let's move to the big matchup, or excuse me, one of the big matchups in college football this weekend. There's matchups anytime you get a Power 5 conference championship game, it's loaded. Pac-12, I believe, is on Friday, and then the rest of them, the Big 12, Big 10, ACC, and SEC are on Saturday, 12 o'clock for two of them, and then 8 o'clock Eastern for the other two. Alabama, 17-point favorite. We all know that. But Florida, they're probably hungrier than they probably would have been because of the way that the game ended against LSU. We can talk about all game long, how the game progressed, how the game went, about the amount of players that LSU didn't have, and then how they played up, I believe, a true freshman quarterback. I mean, all the storylines there. But the one thing everybody's talking about, and even on my Monday show, I talked about it at length. That man threw his shoe. When you saw that moment there, when Marco Wilson picked up the shoe of Cole Taylor, crucial point in the game. You don't do that. LSU punts the ball. You have the chance to win and keep your playoff hopes alive. Now, it seems like those are out the window. When you saw that moment at the end of that game, what was going through your mind?
How do you do that?
Right. Yeah.
That was the first thing that happened. And look, where I'm at in Alabama, I'm right in the southeast corner. So I'm right near the Florida line. So I have a lot of friends that are Florida Gator fans. I have a lot of friends that are Georgia fans. So it's kind of a nice little area here with different college football fans. So I had my Florida fans shoot me some messages when that happened. I even had one that said, and I am going to quote my friend Michael here on your podcast. He goes, "That idiot just cost us a shot at the playoff." That was his message to me. And, Florida's defense played bad the whole game, and Trask turned the ball over 3 times. So it wasn't just that play that lost in the game. But that moment, you're right. They were going to stop LSU. LSU was going to have to punt. It was around 2 minutes left. Florida could have, chewed up the clock, kicked the field goal, won the game. It's just one of them things. You feel bad for the kid anytime that happens because the people on Twitter, they're going to take it too far. And I'm just saying, please, I hope you turned your mentions off this week because it was going to be bad. And you just can't do that. And really the response of Dan Mullen is interesting. Very kind of, I would say, arrogant almost the way he has responded to that. He said he didn't see it and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was just a bonehead decision. And I guess, now you just need to make a play against Alabama and try to make up for it. I mean, you just got to move forward. I guess that's the best thing I can say you got to do now if you're Florida and Marco Wilson.
What do you think took place in the locker room after the game as far as the Florida Gator locker room? I have my own thoughts. I'll make jokes about that thing all day. I want to be as goofy and as funny and as lighthearted about something like that as possible. But if I'm a player on that team, you get in the locker room and we lose the game. Now, granted, they had a chance to kick a field goal, I believe, to tie the game, missed a field goal. Before that, I believe Katie York made a 55-yard field goal in the fog. So there was still time for Florida to still have a chance to win. And you can go back early in the game. There's always moments, first, second, third, and fourth quarter before the boneheaded play that could have gone different for you, that would have allowed your team to be in a better position to win the game. But that wasn't the case. Florida lost. Marco Wilson threw the shoe 20 yards, the same exact distance that the referee said. And I laughed and he said, "Oh, he threw the shoe 20 yards." I'm like, you did not have to put that man on blast and state how far he threw the shoe. But that's what happened. And I'm curious. Have fun with it if you want to. What do you think the temperature of the locker room was like? No, let me change that. How would you be in the locker room if you were in the locker room there after losing the game and thinking, Marco Wilson, you messed up and here's how I feel?
I've been mad. I mean, I know how my temperament is in certain situations. Especially, look, you had an opportunity. Now, look, just as the analyst part of me, I still, if they won that game against Alabama, I know we're going to get into that, but their chance against Alabama probably won't be good either way. But, you took away the opportunity because you never know. Look, that game, that shows you right there. You just never know who would have thought LSU was going to beat Florida. No one, even though Florida's struggled on defense this year. But yeah, I've been mad. I mean, I understand there's probably some things said in that locker room. I mean, I can only imagine what some of his teammates said, maybe some coaches said and stuff like that. So, I mean, like I said, when I saw that, I mean, for just as somebody that's been watching and loves this conference and just loves watching college football, I felt for them because you see stuff like that. We see that all the time with kickers, missing a big kick that costs a team an opportunity like that. It's kind of like the same place I go to with that. It's just, as, a fan and, separate from it, I feel bad for them. But, yeah, if I was a player in that locker room or coach, I've been furious because you just took away a great opportunity for us to potentially get into the playoff.
You did, and you set it up perfectly as far as Florida and the SEC championship. Let's go this route when we begin this conversation. Phillip, there are people out there that don't watch SEC football. They don't care about SEC football. They might hate SEC football. I cover Ohio State for Locked On Buckeyes, Locked On Podcast Network. I'm not the biggest fan of Big Ten football. No, I like Big Ten football. I like the physicality. But Big Ten football to me is kind of boring. It's kind of blah. And the teams year in, year out aren't that good this year. Maybe one of the worst years in Big Ten football I can remember in recent memory. I love personally SEC football. Tradition rich. There's always a big game. Auburn versus somebody. Alabama versus somebody. Tennessee and Alabama. I love this stuff. I love what the SEC has done and the rich history of the conference. Not everyone's like me. You have people out West Coast that don't really care. People that are up north don't really care. Down south don't care. For someone that knows nothing, and I say it that way on purpose because people don't care. They don't really know what's going on with the SEC. All they know is I'm watching the game because Alabama's playing, and I need to know what's going on prior to the playoff that's going to be played New Year's Day. To the person or for the person that knows nothing about the SEC, Florida or Alabama, how would you describe this matchup this weekend?
David versus Goliath, almost. Look,
nice.
I'm going to say something here, and on my latest episode of the podcast that's going to come out on Wednesday, I talk about this with one of my guests. This might be Nick Saban's best team ever because he's had great offenses, especially the ones with Tua. He's had great defenses, the early ones, the ones that when you think about when Greg McElroy was the quarterback or AJ McCarron. He's never really had both in sync like this right now. Alabama's got the best defense in the SEC right now, in my opinion. They're allowing, I think, 16.8 points per game. We've seen what they're doing offensively with Mac Jones, Najee Harris. Mac Jones has not been touched this year.
No, not at all.
Smith at receiver, who I think is not getting just. I think he should be the leading guy for the Heisman Trophy. But let's face it, it's a quarterback award now, just like the MVP award in the National Football League. So that's what Florida's going up against. And this is a really good Florida offense, one of the best offense. Kyle Trask leads the country in passing yards, passing touchdowns. Their defense has been really, really bad. I mean, they just got lit up by Max Johnson making his first start. They were home. Yes, I know there's not the crowd that normally be at the Swamp. That's what we're looking at. That's what people need to know, that this Alabama team is legit. I think the only team in the country that really can hang with them is Clemson. That's just my take. But, yeah, overall, I mean, Florida's going to need a very, very, very valiant effort on Saturday night to pull this thing off. And honestly, they're going to have to get in a shootout. They're going to have to play a flawless offensive game and just hope you get the ball last in a close game. That's what I think people need to know about this game, because this Alabama team is just on another level right now. And I'm going to say this too about this Alabama team. And what I'm about to say, I am not saying Mac Jones is a better overall talent than Tua, but this offense operates better with Mac Jones than it ever did with Tua. And I'm going to say this, Mac Jones is patient. Tua at times would get impatient, wanted to take the deep shot, hit one of them great receivers Alabama had deep for a big play. Mac Jones is more patient. He's willing to dump it off to Najee Harris if Devontae Smith isn't open, or Minchie, or Slade Bolden, all these weapons he has. So that's a big difference too with Alabama. They are more dangerous offensively now than they were with Tua. So that's kind of like a long way of saying, yeah, that's what to look for. This great Alabama team and a great Florida offense. And I'm looking forward to it. I do think it's going to be closer than some people think. But yeah, Florida's got to be flawless on Saturday night.
Alabama, and this is a comment that I was thinking about earlier today, and you and I did not discuss this at all. I had no idea you were going to make those statements about Nick Saban or even Mac Jones. But earlier today, I was thinking about if this were a normal year, no COVID, regular offseason, regular schedule, whatever you want to say about the SEC and how they schedule their games, whatever, it's not going to change anytime soon, I don't believe. But if this were a regular year, regular schedule, everyone's playing 12 plus the conference championship, this may be described by more people in the mainstream media as one of Nick Saban's best teams. But due to everything and people are being soft. A lot of people being soft as far as how they evaluate people. They're trying to be, it's COVID. Nothing really counts. Like, no, it does count. Because the winner at the end of the year is going to hold up the national championship. You can't say that doesn't count because of 2020 and what has gone on this year and how the football season was altered. You can't say that. And I really wonder if there are more people that agree just like you, but just have been biting their tongue as far as how good this Alabama team is. Phillip, I'm going to tell you something about me. I hate watching blowouts. Absolutely. I can't stand them. Ohio State versus Michigan State. I'm sitting there at home watching the game. I'm like, all right, first quarter. I mean, I already know Ohio State's a better team. I'm like, all right, cool. Ohio State gets up. It's going to be a long day simply because I got to sit here and watch a blowout the entire time. I can't turn the game off. I can't miss a beat, can't miss a play. And I hate watching blowouts. Every time I turn on an Alabama game, 21-0 very quickly, maybe 28-7, game's over. And it's every single week. And I'm on the same wavelength as you. I don't watch as much Alabama football as you do, so I don't know. I don't fall into a T to know like all the ins and outs. But man, there's something special about Nick Saban. There's something special about this team. And even with him not on the sidelines, I forget which game he missed. They didn't miss a beat.
Yeah, that was the Iron Bowl that I had to watch every game.
Oh my!
I covered over Tigers. So yeah, that was Sarkisian. I mean, he just rolled out the ball. All that talent, and of course, Dan Mullen has made the same mistake this week that Auburn made that week. We talked about Bo Nix earlier. He called Mac Jones a game manager, and he threw 5 touchdowns on Auburn. Dan Mullen, he didn't say game manager. He said he manages the game well. That's not going to end well for you, Dan Mullen. Don't poke the bear. But yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of people won't give this Alabama team that credit because of the year that we're in. I mean, you're going to have a team like Ohio State. They win this weekend. I'm pretty confident they're going to be in the playoff. 6 wins. You know, some people will say, you hear it. You're on Twitter. I mean, that is not the same as what we normally would be. And Alabama wouldn't have played 10 SEC games in a normal year. It would have been 8. Then you would have had easy games. So but this team I think you just need to watch this team on the field, see what you see. If you need to mute the TV so it doesn't remind you that there's not much of a crowd there. This Alabama team is really, really good. This is not their best defense though. I mean, but they're really, really coming along the second half of the year. I mean, early in the year they were getting beat, especially in the secondary. But I am going to say, to say this. This is the best offense they have played since Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin put 48 points on them. And I'm just telling you, I do think Alabama, they should win this game. They are better than Florida, and I just don't think Florida can play a flawless game. But this is the best offense Alabama has played since Ole Miss, and I do think there's going to be some opportunities for some big plays for Florida because let's not discount Florida. Kyle Trask, wins this game. They can pull off the upset. He wins the Heisman, and he does have better numbers than Mac Jones, but that's because Florida really doesn't run the ball either. You got to put that in there as well. But you got the best tight end in college football. And Kyle Pitts. And one of the best receivers, I don't think it's talked about nationally, Kadarius Toney. Florida puts him all over the field. They line him up at receiver, yes, put him in the slot, but they put him in the backfield as well. So he is a threat, and that's going to be something too. I'm going to be interested to see how Alabama does with that. How did they game plan for Kadarius Toney? Because like I said, Florida likes to put him in different spots. So yes, this is a great Alabama team, but I do think this Florida offense should not be discounted either.
In the this summer, when things were shut down where I currently live, I got to get out and start hiking around some parks here in the area. And that was the first time I came across your podcast. I hadn't reached out to you on Twitter yet. I don't think I followed you. I was just searching stuff like, Talkin SEC. 14 teams in 14 weeks. Previewing the season. It's Alabama week. And all of a sudden, you and I forget who you interviewed that day. It was all Mac Jones this, Mac Jones that. I saw what he did last year. I heard about the recruit that they had brought in, and I was one thinking a recruit should not come in and replace Mac Jones after the phenomenal way he played last year when he was taking over, when he was backing up Tua and became the starter when Tua got hurt. I myself, Phillip, did not expect Mac Jones to play this well this year, but you provided a great preview of Mac Jones in that interview and just letting fans know Mac Jones is not a guy to walk over, sleep on, or anything. He is truly a phenomenal quarterback. And to me, I don't know how you are, but to me, he is the Heisman frontrunner. And basically, if he just plays football the way that he has played football all year, he's winning the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, I felt like he got disrespected coming into the season. Bryce Young was coming in. Everybody said, "Oh, this is the next Tua. He's going to take over." I felt like that was disrespect. And what impressed me about Mac Jones, yeah, he was backing up Tua, the Iron Bowl last year in a losing effort. He threw 4 touchdowns. I believe, I don't have the stats right from me, but it was, and I might be wrong. I believe it was over 300 yards in the Iron Bowl. But he threw 2 interceptions that were pick sixes. And what impressed me about that, let's look, most quarterbacks making their first big time start. Yeah, he had started against Arkansas early in the year, but Arkansas was really bad last year. Mm-hmm. You're in Iron Bowl. You're in a packed Jordan-Hare Stadium. And I might be biased because of Auburn. I think that's the toughest place to play in the SEC. When Auburn is good, that place is loud, and Auburn's different there.
Would you say that's you think that's tougher than Sanford Stadium in Athens, Georgia? Yeah,
I do.
And the swamp.
I have big games at Jordan-Hare at night, especially at night or in a big game. That place is loud from start to finish. But he threw them 2 pick sixes. Most quarterbacks would have folded in that moment. You know what Mac Jones did both times? He led Alabama back down the field for touchdowns. In that game alone, they showed me what he was about. The moment's never going to be too big for him. He is ready, and he has improved. I think he has made himself better physically. I think he put on some pounds of muscle during the offseason. And look, for people out there, maybe they haven't watched Alabama. You can't really find a point in this season where he has played bad. Now, he doesn't get touched. Only 8 sacks. Alabama's allowed when he's in the game. I think Bryce Young's been sacked 6 times. But most times you got to admit, that's probably the backup offensive lineman too. But I don't remember him making a bad throw this year and him playing bad. I mean, he has been consistent throughout. And we look at Kyle Trask, and you bring up the Heisman. Kyle Trask has had bad moments this year.
Yeah.
And the Florida's previous game against LSU, he threw 2 interceptions. One was kind of a freak deal where the ball got tipped all over the place, and he fumbled the ball late in the first half. So we have seen Kyle Trask kind of have some bad moments. Mac Jones has been solid throughout. So now I didn't think he was going to do this. You talk about a podcast. I was joined by Tony Sikalis from BamaInsider.com. Now we was talking about that. I didn't see this year coming out of Mac Jones. But yeah, I felt like he got incredibly disrespected, and really saw a big year out of him because look at that talent. How can you not have a great year at Alabama as a quarterback with all that talent around you?
Jalen Waddle out. Devontae Smith steps up, and he's playing out of his mind. Najee Harris, these are just some French guys I'm sure a lot of people have heard about. Even if you're a casual college football fan, you may have heard or seen Najee Harris on the field doing big things, Devontae Smith doing big things. But who are other players on the Alabama Crimson Tide offense and defense that fans should know about before this weekend's matchup against the Florida Gators?
I mean, we talk about Devontae Smith. John Minchie was playing well when Jalen Waddle was there. He was the third guy. Yeah. You got to look at the Alabama team last year. You had Waddle and you had Smith, but you also had Ruggs and you had Judy. I mean, that's 4 NFL wide receivers. So yeah, I was kind of wondering coming into the season with Alabama, okay, you got Waddle. Of course, he got hurt early in the year. Then you got Smith, who was going to be the third guy. And then you got John Minchie. And now you got, Bolden coming in for Alabama as well when Waddle went down. It's like Alabama, they're continuously putting out. Those are the guys to look for. Because obviously you're Florida. You're trying to take away Devontae Smith. I mean, good luck. No one's been able to do it all year. But if they are able to double him and take him out even a little bit, those are the other guys you got to look out for Alabama. They have a tight end in Billingsley as well. He's been rising lately. Talent aplenty for Mac Jones once again, as we talk here, with what they're able to do offensively. So those are some guys too. If you're not familiar with Alabama, some other receivers you can look for the Crimson Tide.
What about the defense? Who should we keep our eyes on the defense of the Crimson Tide?
I would just say look at the secondary, Patrick Surtain.
Okay.
And just overall, not just one player defense for Alabama. I'm going to be intrigued how they deal with Kyle Pitts. How do you defend him? Because he's a tight end, but he runs as fast as a wide receiver. And I don't know why Florida didn't play him last week. And some people I know that cover Florida said he looked well in warm-ups. They just held him out. I guess that was an arrogant thing with Florida too, thinking, we can beat LSU without him. Because then with Kyle Pitts, how you guard him, do you put a safety on him or do you put a corner? I mean, if you put a corner, he's going to overpower him. It's going to be like a power forward having a guard on him pretty much if Kyle Pitts. And then a safety or linebacker, can they keep up with speed-wise? Because then that ties back into Kadarius Toney at wide receiver. And Grimes too as well for Florida on the other side. That will open up things for them. So that's kind of for Alabama's defense. But Surtain, is one of the guys in the secondary. That's kind of, where they have been weak at too at Alabama. So, of course, you got Dylan Moses in the middle as well, kind of the quarterback. They got defense players all over the field, and their defense has been playing well. But that's kind of some players I would look out for because those are kind of guys that you would think would be around Kyle Pitts because that's going to be the key to slowing down Florida on Saturday.
I heard. I was watching something on TV, and this season I have listened to less and less and watched less and less things on TV, ESPN, FS1. I try to do my own thing, podcasts like yours, independent guys. I find do a lot better job than some of the guys in the mainstream media. But somebody said we may see a Patrick Surtain, Kyle Pitts matchup. To me, I don't see that. I think that would be dumb. But do you think that could be something we see this weekend?
Best on best.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you see. I mean, and maybe not early, but Nick Saban if Kyle Pitts is giving them trouble, I could see Nick Saban going that route and saying, okay, we just got to put our best guy on him just to take him away. But that's my thing. If you take him away from maybe an actual receiver and you put him on Pitts, that's going to open up potentially some things for Kadarius Toney, especially because, like I said, I'm always intrigued with Florida where they put him at on the field, and they do put him at running back. So can they create mismatches with him too? But yeah, Surtain versus Pitts, I would expect maybe not on the outset, but if he is having a good first quarter, good first half, Nick Saban make that adjustment and put him over there on.
Phillip, last comments about the SEC championship. Who you believe? Well, you kind of already said it. Who you believe will win the game? If you want to give us a score prediction, go throw that out there as well. And then also take a little bit more time with this. Let people know what's coming up with your podcast shows this week. Shows in the future. If you have anything else planned, just let us know what's going on with you, your podcast, and things you have going on.
Well, firstly, I do think Alabama's going to win. If you want a score prediction, I would say I don't think Alabama wins by the 17. I don't think it's that. I think Alabama wins 48-38. I think they pull away late in the fourth quarter. That's kind of where I think that going. Podcast-wise, got a big one coming out on Wednesday, just to kind of let people know. People won't know this guy, but he's a local guy, kind of a mentor to me, John Johnson from the Desert Eagle. He will get the Alabama side. He's covered some Alabama games. And then David Waters from the Gators Breakdown podcast will be on to talk about the Florida Gator side, and also 3 guests on Wednesday's pod. It is a big podcast. Buddy of mine, he kind of co-hosts every now and then with me, Brandon Eisman. We'll pick all the SEC games, and then you'll hear my prediction once again. And start next week, going back to once a week, big podcast once a week, probably around the hour. A lot of guests. And I've got some new stuff for 2021 I'm going to do with the podcast, and just I guess people just follow me online at P Jordan SEC and get further details on that. But please subscribe to Talking SEC if you liked, or even if you didn't like what I said here. If you want to critique me, I'm all for it.
Guys, you guys know that when it comes to different guests that I have on, I don't bring just anybody. These are guys that I respect. I haven't said this to Phillip before ever. I'll say it with him now. I respect his work. He does a phenomenal job. When I randomly stumbled across Talkin SEC over the summer, that was legit. I was at Holiday Park, 20 minutes away from my apartment, and I was like, oh, I'm by the water just walking around, and it was Mac Jones this, Mac Jones that. And I was so intrigued by the conversation, I stopped walking. I stood by a tree and listened for 10 minutes just to take in and soak in everything that was coming through my headphones at the time. That's how much I thoroughly enjoyed the podcast. I don't have many podcasts that are I subscribe to. I have a few. There are so many out there. Yours, mine. We do so much stuff. And if I find one that I like, I stick to it, and I'm glued to it because I love good work. I love guys that do good stuff. Phillip, you do good work. Thank you so much for coming on the Jay Stevens podcast. And down the road, guys, there may be a time, just a little teaser, that you'll see Phillip on down the road as well, because the football season is not going to end. It's going to end this year, but there will be a football season next year in 2021, and we'll love to have Phillip on again down the road. Phillip Jordan, thank you so much for coming on the Jay Stevens podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I appreciate it, Jay. I appreciate you having me on. It was a lot of fun.